Why aren't you using a drill?
I don't know, Kevin. Why am I not using a drill?
I don't know.
Because you didn't this because you handed me this. What's up, guys? So over the last couple months, a lot of you have asked the very important question of why Kevin and I are not running a spare tire. Of course, one of the main reasons is we've just been trying our hardest to avoid adding that extra weight to the rear of our Jeep for as long as humanly possible. For those of you that don't know, beadlocks and 38s are heavy as shit.
This stuff is huge. I mean, you know, this is waist high. The beadlocks are 42 pounds. The tire's 80 something pounds. I mean, it takes my whole body to lift this thing up.
This whole combination weighs more than I do. So it's like strapping an entire Brittany to the back of our Jeep. Maybe a Brittany and a half.
And a case of beer. That and this magnesium tailgate. They did beef it up for the JLs over the JK, but I'm still not going to trust it. We now have
the Motobilt rear tire carrier reinforcement, which basically helps our tailgate to carry the weight of that beadlock and that 38-inch tire.
So this right here will be able to carry the 38.
So I know it looks kind of just like a giant jumble of discombobulated parts, but to give you an idea of how this sort of goes together, that way you can kind of picture it before we actually install it. Just sort of a quick mock-up here.
Those holes.
And finally, that bad boy. So you can kind of get an idea of how this holds, not only the spare tire, but you'll notice you also have a space for your rear view camera. So it does maintain the rear view camera just like our current spare tire delete setup does as well. In addition to that, we'll also be able to continue utilizing that third brake light kit that we're already using. So we don't have to add any other extra parts other than this right here. And the installation is not as hard as you think it would be. Now, the really cool thing is that this spare tire carrier has arrived just in time for us to install right before we go on our month-long epic adventure where we'll be hitting up Sand Hollow for the Winter 4x4 Jamboree, Tucson, Arizona for a pretty big surprise. We'll also be going to San Diego, California, where we're going to be wheeling with Trail Recon, and of course, from there we're going to King of Hammers. And of course, for an adventure like that, it's definitely the time and place to make sure that we do have a spare tire just in case we will be needing it. Now, as far as the installation itself goes, first things first is going to be removing the inner trim panel on the passenger side of your Jeep, including the tailgate trim panel. For those of you who aren't quite sure how to do that, we did show a step-by-step how-to when we did our spare tire delete install and our third brake light install. So you're more than welcome to go back to that video if you're curious on how to take all those panels off. And then of course the next step is using our little trim panel tool here to go ahead and remove the wiring harness on the back of the tailgate.
All right, so now that you have the harness loose, we're going to unplug these three connectors. They're all three different. I don't know why manufacturers do this. So anyway, the first one you just push down, pull out. The second one, there's a little red tab that you need to release, and then maybe push, there you go, and then push down the little black piece there. Then this one looks like you just push down the white tab. Oh, yeah, okay. So easy enough. Those three, you can't mess them up. They're all three different. Toss that to the inside, and we are clear. Now we're ready to pull the gate off.
Now when it comes to removing the tailgate itself, we're going to start by removing the door check, which is just a T40.
Why aren't you using a drill?
I don't know, Kevin. Why am I not using a drill?
I don't know.
Because you didn't this because you handed me this. Okay, so once you have the door check removed, next up are the hinges. Now, in order to get to the hinges, you do have to do something that initially seems cringeworthy.
It's not that bad.
But it's not that bad. That's why I said initially. Initially it seems cringeworthy, but it's not that bad. As you can see here, Jeep basically put, it's almost like a plastic or stronger tape that they just painted red over these areas that allow you to get to your hinge bolts here. So all you have to do is remove those two squares. We've already moved one, as you can see.
And the second one, we'll just...
And the second one, we're just gonna do that. Easy enough. Oh God.
Don't get it under your nail like Brittany just did. And it kind of just peels off.
Just like that.
There you go.
So now you have full access to the bolts for both of your hinges. Now at this point, once you've broken a nail, Next up is removing the hinges themselves. Now the tricky part with removing the hinges is, as you can see, Jeep did a great job of making them look fantastic by painting the bolts, which is all fine and dandy until you have to remove them, because you do have to break the paint, and unfortunately the T55 doesn't quite fit.
Now it fits.
Now it fits.
So we're doing this on the gate because these are so tight in here. Being on the gate still allows us the leverage instead of having
Of being able to basically, I can hold this, he can break it free. Just like that. Now, if you want to be super fancy, of course, you can actually use a mallet or a hammer rather than your ratchet, but since when have we ever been super fancy? Oh, why do you get the drill?
Because I'm smart.
Now, at this point, you do want to get your handy dandy Michael,
Yep.
or at least someone else, to hold onto the tailgate as you unbolt it, obviously, so it doesn't just fall to the ground and you ruin it.
What?
It's heavy.
It's not heavy.
Trust me.
What?
How heavy is it?
Dude, it's heavy. You'll see in a second.
It's magnesium.
It's heavy. Oh my god.
Super
Maybe
light.
10.
Holy crap.
Again, this is why we did not put our beadlock and 38-inch tire on our tailgate. Although it's stronger than it used to be, it is still not meant to carry that much weight without some level of reinforcement, which is what we're about to install. Now, once you've got the actual tailgate itself removed, which, by the way, don't worry, that nasty metal will be covered up with these handy dandy guys, you can go ahead and come over here and remove the actual hinges themselves, which
13 millimeter?
13 millimeter.
And voila.
There you go.
That's it, man.
Unhinged.
That's it.
Now all we got to do is install the new stuff. This would also be the perfect time to mention, because I don't believe I have already, but the spare tire reinforcement does come as raw steel, so you do have to paint it and or powder coat it, just like all of Motobilt's stuff. We obviously went with black, just like we did with our rear bumper. That way everything matches and looks nice and dandy and fancy.
It does.
From here, we're gonna put the main part of this reinforcement onto the tailgate, but I did wanna show you guys that we did go to Ace Hardware and buy ourselves some of this sponge window seal in small. Thank you, Kevin. And as you can see, we actually installed it right along the edge of this half of that reinforcement. The reason we only did this section is because this is elevated off the tailgate and will be sitting against those black spacers that are included with the Motobilt kit. But this section normally would be sitting directly against the paint on the tailgate. So we did that kind of.
See if it works.
We're gonna see if it works. It may not. We're gonna give it a shot, but the idea there is hopefully to protect the paint on the tailgate itself and to keep stuff from getting stuck down in there as well. So we'll see. Yeah, it looks like it does. So as you can see, it works pretty seamlessly. You can't really tell that that's foam or that it's there, but it does a good job of keeping this metal off of your nice, beautiful red or any other color paint. So Motobilt does include these 8mm Allen bolts that will replace those factory painted bolts. These go in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the reason you do have to use these is your factory bolts are tapered, as you can see here, and so they don't work any longer with this reinforcement kit. So you do get to use these guys now, which is also nice, because then you'd have 4 random red bolts you'd be able to see, and that would just look a little bit weird.
Yeah, it looks super weird.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work.
All right, let's get these in. That foam actually worked really, really well. Good call on that, Kev. Okay, now before you remount your tailgate, you do have to utilize these shims. Although I believe for the final production, you'll actually have one piece versus 3 separate shims like we do and what I'm about to show you. But these guys will go on just the bottom hinge. You do have to stack them, which we had a moment of how the hell are we gonna do that? And then we remembered.
Gorilla tape is always the answer.
Basically just line those bad boys up. We actually tape them together with Gorilla tape, and then we're also using Gorilla tape to tape them down. One guy to hold the tailgate and one person to help you feed through these bolts. All right, look at that. And as you guys can see, we did reuse these hinge bolts as well. All right, so next up, of course, is just assembling the rest of the spare tire carrier itself, like I did earlier on at the very beginning when I mocked it up for you guys. So first up is gonna be this little guy here, which as you can see, you have different options as far as how high or how low you wanna set this thing. Of course, we're running 38, so we're gonna put it at the highest possible setting. And then of course, there's this little guy here, which again, as you can see, has a range of adjustment. So you can adjust just how far off the tailgate itself you want this to sit to make sure that whatever size tire you're running will fit properly. Now, as you can see, for us personally, we want our tire to be as close to our tailgate as possible. And the reason for that is all about departure angle. We want to make sure that that tire is tucked in nice and tight. So, but it's a preference. And obviously, what are you doing? And obviously it's based on tire size as well. All right, so once you have your tailgate aligned where it needs to go, where you think it needs to go, next up is putting on the spare tire. But what you can see, what we did is we actually aligned it so that it sits higher than it needs to be. And that's because we're about to put 100 plus pounds of spare tire and wheel onto the back, which of course is gonna bring the weight of that tailgate back down. So we're hoping it works out perfectly. Put your triangular piece on top of your circular piece, just like back in kindergarten, and then get your two beefy helpers to put the spare tire on. There you go. We're just gonna loosely put the lug nuts on real quick and then check the tailgate to see if it opens.
I'm gonna tightly put it on.
Okay, you're just gonna go for it and hope it works. All right, let's see if our guesswork was decent. Well, it opens easy, and it shuts. Oh my God.
That's good. You got that. Now, remember how the gate?
Oh, yeah, the whole thing used to shimmy.
The whole gate used to move. That's solid.
That's super solid. Look at that. It's opening butter smooth. All right, one more time. Shut it slow for me. Nice and slow. Look at that. That's friggin' perfect.
That's good.
Yeah. Awesome. So our advice for anyone who's running a 38 or beadlocks or just a lot of weight when it comes to your spare tire, definitely align it so everything sits a little bit higher before you put your spare tire on. That should hopefully get you a lot closer to where you actually need to be at that point. Okay, so once you have the tailgate aligned perfectly, you've got your spare tire on, everything torqued down, bolted down, good to go. The last piece is your license plate bracket, which, as you can see, we've already got the camera here remounted back on here, and we've got our third brake light, which again, you guys will remember from the third brake light install and the tire delete video as well. That's where we had both of these taken care of. So you can go back to that video if you want to see how we got the rear camera bolted onto here. But we've got all this assembled. So all we have to do is thread the wire through and plug it in.
That's it.
And we're done. As you can see here, we've got the wire for the third brake light routed through that center hub, and the wire for the camera actually goes down through the same area as well. And what it does is it goes through the center of that circular mount. And if we come back around here, you can see that our third brake light wire, we actually fed straight through right here. And just like when we did the tire delete and we'd cut this section out, all we did was cut one more section out right here to make it easy to get to with the tire mounted. So you don't have to take the spare tire off in order to pull that out if you need to. So this is pulled through here, and the backup camera wire just goes straight around here and back through its stock location. So it comes through there and through here. So you have all your plugs exactly where they were before. And then of course, all we have to do is bolt the spare tire bracket on, and then it's plug and play and good to go.
If I ever have to change a tire on the trail, so help me God.
But it is better in our case to be safer rather than sorry, especially with all the crap and all the events and all the off-roading that we are about to embark on.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
All right, so once you've got these two bolts here tightened down, all that's left is hooking up all of your wiring. Just gonna go through and pop these bad boys back in. And then once you've got that done, you can go through and plug in all of your wires. And there you go. So there's those three. And this one, as you can see, remember from the last install video, we've already got this mounted up. From there, the last thing is, of course, just putting your trim panels back on. Alright, so there you guys have it. Motobilt's spare tire hinge reinforcement, which, as you saw, it's not an overly difficult install. I'd probably give it like a 3, maybe 3.5 bananas out of 5. But you definitely want to make sure that you have someone else with you, preferably someone that is stronger than me, because aligning this isn't easy. It does take a little bit of strength, and of course picking up 100 plus, 130 plus, a ton of weight in the form of beadlock and tire is not easy. I couldn't do it personally. So always have a buddy with you with this install. At least I would highly recommend it. Now this spare tire carrier obviously not only allows us to carry a spare safely without worrying about ruining our tailgate. It doesn't budge, as you can see, which means, I mean, even our old one, holy crap, just bolted to the actual tailgate when we did run the 38 for a short amount of time. It shimmied and shook a ton just on the highway. This will hold it steady, not just on the trails, but also going up and down obstacles in the crazy, insane, freaky fashion that Kevin and I tend to do. On top of all that, obviously, it also means that we now have a spare tire. So for everyone who's been concerned and asking why we aren't running one, we are now. We're good to go. We should be set. Hopefully we won't be left stranded. I mean, hopefully we won't need it whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't ever want to need it.
But if we do need it, we now have it. And we're gonna be doing some tough stuff over the next month or so. So I'm pumped. I hope you guys are pumped. If you have any questions whatsoever, as always, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below.
I do want to bring up one thing. I know people are going to ask why we didn't go to a bumper mounted, frame mounted carrier.
Oh, it's like a swing carrier?
Yeah, a swing carrier. You can see where this is at now. You've got plenty of clearance down here. The departure angle is still pretty good. You have the hitch here. It's tucked up nice and tight to the gate.
I don't think we're going to be hitting that on any rocks whatsoever.
I don't think so. But when you come out and you move this whole thing out to here, it moves everything further out and more than likely lower. We like this because it actually keeps it high and tight.
Yep.
This was why I was waiting for this. I didn't want it down here lower and setting off the Jeep even further. So
I mean, the JL already has like a really long wheelbase, so this keeps everything compact. It makes sure that our departure angle is the best that it can possibly be for the kind of stuff that we do.
yeah, and it's, I mean, it is.
It's still open, it's really easy.
Yeah, I mean, you feel the weight, but
you don't feel like the whole tailgate's about to fall off the hinges anymore.
yeah, we're high and tight. I love it.
Anyway, you guys, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And we will see you next time.
Are you gonna come in and say bye, Michael, since he helped? He helped. He helped.
He did help.
Bye. That was awesome.